You guys, we made it. We are over the halfway mark of the federal election campaign. Welcome to day 19, where we just seem to have unlocked a potential flirtation with US-style reaction to electoral outcomes. That's right, these folks were hanging out at a Poilievre rally last night. And so were these folks wearing their hoodies that said, "Do you believe the polls?" And while it's not getting into full-blown denial territory, it was enough to worry one conservative strategist who took to Twitter to write, "Dear conservative friends, stop. We have rules. We accept outcomes based on following those rules. Following rules is a core conservative value. Please don't plant seeds to do the opposite." So this conservative strategist seems to be concerned that these guys are planting seeds for not accepting the outcome of the election. Meanwhile, the top dog out of the Globe and Mail's Ottawa bureau took to Twitter to share that the Conservative Party campaign manager, Jenny Byrne, has apparently been telling people that they are winning. Don't believe the polls. We have so many lawn signs and big rallies. All of this created the conditions where reporters actually asked Poilievre and Carney today whether they will accept the outcome of the federal election no matter what it is. Take a listen to how each leader responded.
And do you commit to recognizing the result of the election, whatever it is?
Jeez, of course. Okay. This is Canada. This is Canada. I know there's certain parties that just import all their slogans and their policies from America, but let's not import that nonsense into Canada. We will have, and we are in the midst of a fair and open and free election in Canada.
Do you believe the polls, and can you commit today that you will respect the results of the election no matter the outcome?
Yes, and that decision will be based on whether, after a lost Liberal decade of rising crime and costs and a falling economy under America's thumb, we can afford a fourth Liberal term, or whether we want change with a new Conservative government.
I heard Poilievre say yes, but reporters on the ground noted that he didn't specifically speak about the poll aspect of the question. And some reporters tried again to ask him to speak specifically about the question of the polls, but because this was outside of the 4 handpicked journalists who he allows to ask one question, no follow-ups, he ignored them. By the way, Poilievre's announcement today was to reimburse cities for half of every dollar they cut in development charges. Those charges fund new infrastructure for housing like sewers and roads, so yeah. Meanwhile, Mark Carney had a huge announcement today on his crime policies and border stuff. I'm talking massive. I took notes on this and I had to do like a 10-tweet thread to summarize it all. But some of the main stuff that stood out to me was he said that the Liberals will automatically revoke licenses for individuals convicted of violent offenses, including intimate partner violence. He also said they would make unalivings motivated by hate a constructive first-degree offense and would make it criminal to produce and distribute non-consensual, rhymes with corn, deep fakes. I'm really glad to see that issue spoken about on the campaign trail because this is a huge rising issue, and I can't begin to express to you how violating it feels to have people take your likeness and do something really disgusting and non-consensual with it. This has happened to me through the use of Photoshop, and it's happened to so many other women, so I'm just glad that we're talking about what to do about it. There was a lot more to the announcement, like they would reverse the burden of proof, as in the accused would have to prove they don't represent a threat to public safety to get bail over certain criminal charges like stealing cars using violence or for a criminal organization, home invasions, or certain human trafficking or smuggling offenses. They'd also do some beefing up of the border, extend both the amount of time data will be preserved and the period during which charges can be brought forth for crimes involving harm to children, and would make it a criminal offense to willfully and intentionally obstruct access to any place of worship, any school, or any community center, as well as a criminal offense to intimidate or threaten those attending services at these locations. Again, that's not everything, but those are some key points from the announcement. Separately, Carney also announced that he is hitting pause on his campaign for a 3rd time to go to Ottawa to have meetings about Trump's tariffs. Things then got pretty juicy during the Q&A session. Like I mentioned in yesterday's video, Mark Carney has had protesters showing up to his rallies pressing him to take a stance on Gaza. One of those protesters yelled, quote, "There is a genocide in Gaza," and Carney responded, quote, "I'm aware." When pressed on this yesterday, he walked it back. He said he didn't hear the protester use the G word. So today, journalists just outright asked him, "Do you believe Israel is committing genocide in Gaza?" He responded by saying, "This question is in front of the International Court of Justice. The situation is a horrible situation. I will not and I will never politicize that word or this situation." I'll just leave this Amnesty International investigation here. Carney also had a moment where he actually got quite grumpy with a journalist, and initially I was like, well, what the hell, man? And I still don't love how he talked to the reporter, but I can kind of understand his frustration a little bit more after I went down a rabbit hole. So here's that clip.
Says that this is a tactic China uses to exert influence.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, but you can't believe everything you read in the Globe and Mail. So in your question, and I guess in the article in question, you said I had a meeting with whatever your term was, Beijing group. I've never heard of this group, okay? Never heard of this group. Certainly didn't have a set-up meeting with this group. Full stop. So check your sources before you write things like that, okay? Or your colleagues do.
Kind of snippy, right? I mean, he's not calling her a protester, right? So we're not in that league, but I do think it's still dangerous for politicians to broadly cast aspersions on entire news organizations because they take issue with a part of a report or the wording of a question. You can critique that without telling people to dismiss the entire organization, right? But I went down a whole rabbit hole here, and I'll give you more details on this in the fact check tomorrow, but it looks like the Globe and Mail quoted this organization saying that it had a meeting with Mark Carney, and it turns out that they just seem to have taken photos with him at a leadership campaign event back in February. That kind of feels like if I said I had dinner with Timothée Chalamet when he actually was just eating in the same restaurant as me. You know what I mean? So the Globe probably should have looked into the claim a little more deeply before publishing it, because it's not that hard to find a bunch of pictures from the same event that clearly said it was a leadership event. But anyways. Meanwhile, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh got an apology today after a Saskatchewan Party MLA called him a terrorist. He had a really great response. He said, quote, "I am an adult. I'm a leader of a national party. I'm an elected official. I'm a lawyer. I don't care that they said that about me. But I am worried about why someone would say that. This is an MLA, someone who is an elected official, a respected member of her community, a former teacher. What would make someone say something like that? This is someone that I would assume is a very educated person. That's what I'm really worried about. I'm worried about the kids who grew up in a classroom where she taught." He's absolutely right. And I hope that any kids who heard him say that today found a little bit of strength in the face of these kinds of disgusting headlines. I'm going to wrap things up by totally burying the lead, which is that Nardwuar released his usual election interviews, in which he asks every party leader not only for an interview, but also whether they'll do the hip flip. Sadly, it looks like Pierre Poilievre didn't have the guts to face down Nardwuar because these two videos were posted at the same time and no video was posted with Pierre Poilievre. But did they do the hip flip? I'll let the clips speak for themselves.
Will you do the hip flip with me, Mr. Carney?
Yes.
Great. Yeah. Well, then let's pull it out. Will you, Jagmeet Singh, do the hip flip with me, Nardwuar to Human Serviette?
Absolutely.
That's the day in election news. I'm sure more is going to happen by this time tomorrow, so I'll see you then. But until then, what do you think of all this?